Hello, and welcome to the Child Mental Health Wraparound Program, otherwise known as the CMHW. This webinar is for wraparound facilitators and wraparound supervisors who will be partnering with families and youth receiving high-fidelity wraparound funded by the CMHW. The purpose of this webinar is to provide you with a high-level overview of the CMHW 1915I State Plan Amendment and the services and supports that are available for families and youth to choose from. The CMHW is a Medicaid-funded program. Only youth who have a qualifying category of Medicaid are eligible. We'll cover eligibility criteria a little further into the presentation. As mentioned in the previous slide, the CMHW program is a 1915I state plan amendment. Implementation and oversight of the program is held by multiple partners. At the federal level, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. At the state level, the Family and Social Services Administration, Office of Medicaid Policy and Procedure, and the Division of Mental Health and Addiction. All four systems are in place to assure that this program is compliant with federal and state Medicaid rules and processes, and that the wraparound practice model is installed within our state at the highest level of fidelity. The Division of Mental Health and Addiction has an entire team that provides training, technical assistance, support with provider enrollment, quality improvement, and data collection. Our team provides support to all approved providers under the CMHW program. Wraparound facilitation organizations receive on-site coaching provided by DMHA Quality Improvement Wraparound Site Coaches. Our team is made up of the DMHA Assistant Deputy Director, a provider specialist, a provider coordinator, quality improvement specialist, data coordinator, the Director of Wraparound Implementation, and a team of QI wraparound site coaches. Each approved wraparound facilitation organization is assigned a quality improvement wraparound site coach. DMHA site coaches focus on providing technical assistance and training specifically around installing high-fidelity wraparound within our approved organizations. During onboarding as a new wraparound facilitator or supervisor, you will be required to attend training that is specific to the practice model. These trainings include Introduction to Wraparound, which is a 3-day training. 1 month after you attend Introduction to Wraparound, you will attend Engagement in Wraparound, which is a 1-day training. And then 6 months from attending Introduction to Wraparound, you will attend Intermediate Wraparound Training, which is a 2-day training. These trainings are spaced out in this capacity to allow learning and to allow you as a wraparound facilitator or supervisor time in the field to practice your skills before coming back to the next training and building on those. Wraparound supervisors are required to attend these trainings as well. Plus, wraparound supervisors need to attend a wraparound supervisor training where we introduce you to the coaching tools that you'll be using during supervision time with your staff, as well as advanced wraparound training. All wraparound facilitators and their supervisors are required to attend an annual booster as well. Your assigned wraparound site coach is your go-to person related to high fidelity wraparound and is also a policy expert regarding the rules and regulations of the CMHW program. One thing to let you know as well, all the information that we share in this webinar can be found on this link in front of you here. So you might want to take a moment, write this link down or save it, bookmark it. This is our policy module for the CMHW program. So remember, this webinar is just simply an overview, but you can really dig deep into the details of policy and the intent of the program at this website. Please know that all CMHW providers are required to become familiar with all policy requirements. That's wraparound facilitators, supervisors, habilitation providers, training and support for the unpaid caregiver, and respite providers. Everyone should have a copy of our module. So, our program offers families these services in addition to their Medicaid Rehabilitation Option Package, or MRO. Through the CMHW program, wraparound facilitation is a must. We can't do wraparound without a wraparound facilitator. But our families have the choice of these following services. They can pick what's their best fit for their care. So if a family chooses habilitation, that doesn't mean they have to have respite. If a family chooses respite, that doesn't mean they have to have training and support to the unpaid caregiver. It's all to what is the best fit for that family. We'll cover these services in detail and their definitions and requirements later in this webinar. You should know that CMHW services should never replace or duplicate any other Medicaid service that is available to youth and families. CMHW is designed for families, like I said, to be able to choose from these services that are a best fit. Wraparound is different and allows families to pick services versus other Medicaid funded programs. Wraparound works best when it's supported by a larger system of care infrastructure. So when you think about, I want you to imagine a pyramid in your head. And in that pyramid, you have the bottom of the pyramid, you have a chunk there, and then you have a middle of the pyramid. And then at the top, you have the very tippy top of the pyramid. And so each level of the pyramid represents all communities and supports and services available to everyone in the state of Indiana. The bottom of the pyramid would represent general services like universal health promotion and prevention, things like your family doctor, your local Boys and Girls Club, therapy, after school programs, and supports that are available to everyone to help them live healthy lives within their community. The middle of a pyramid would then represent youth and families who have a higher level of need. So the bottom of the pyramid didn't quite meet our needs that we have. So we jump up to the middle where more intensive and targeted supports and services are needed. Examples could include MRO skills training, case management, involvement with system providers such as child welfare or juvenile justice interventions. And then when you think about that pyramid and you think about the very top point of the pyramid, that represents our families and youth with very complex needs, multi-system involvement, youth that are at risk for out-of-home placement. The top point represents the level of need for the families in which we build partnerships with. When everything else below the top of the pyramid has failed, that's when we do wraparound. Wraparound is designed to keep youth in their community with their family. The pyramid is important because it provides you with a visual representation of the families and youth that you will be supporting under this practice model. When everything else fails and no one knows what else to do, that's when we do wraparound. So here's the definition of wraparound. So wraparound facilitation, I want you to hear this, I want you to hear it and hear it again, is not case management. So what is wraparound? Wraparound is an ecologically based process. It's not a service. I mean, you do get reimbursed for the care you provide, but it's a process and an approach to care planning that builds on the collective action of the committed group of family, friends, community, professionals, and cross-system supports, mobilizing resources and talents from a variety of sources, resulting in the creation of a plan of care that is the best fit between the family vision, their story, the team's mission, strengths, needs, and strategies. And so to let you guys know a little the differences between case management and wraparound process and practice. So in case management models, you see that those folks may have a caseload requirement, sometimes up to 25 and 30 individuals that they partner with. In high fidelity wraparound facilitators only partner with 8 to 10 youth. That's because the practice model, you do better work and families have better outcomes when we partner with that number of youth versus 25 to 30 individuals. The practice model will not work if we partner with that many families, such as in case management. So our focus in this program really is 10 youth. 8 is the national requirement. We're allowing you as a state to have up to 10. So the difference between case management and wraparound facilitation creates a plan for families. That's what case management does. That has tasks for them to complete. Wraparound facilitates a process that builds a team of formal and informal or natural supports, and the team members do the tasks in partnership with families. It builds a plan where families have access, voice, and ownership in their planning process through a wraparound team meeting. When we think about case management, they focus on family and youth following services in the plan. High fidelity wraparound focuses on transitioning and assisting families and youth in finding self efficacy. Very different, very different. So keep that in your mind. You guys are going to learn a lot more about this when you attend Introduction to Wraparound, Engagement, and Intermediate Wraparound. This is just a little taste. So how does wraparound create change? So wraparound is grounded in a theory of change, and many evidence-based practices and processes look at the theory of change. In wraparound, there's two interacting routes to change that lead to outcomes, the best outcomes for youth and families. And the first one is that services and supports work better individually and as a package that creates a best fit between the components of the practice model, as well as matching families' functional strengths that are designed to meet their identified needs and help the family move closer to their vision. To have improved access, engagement, retention, and commitment to services and supports, families report a higher degree of cohesion between their needs and how they're being addressed. Service practitioners will change their approach based on the information that is gathered through the team process to address needs and build on strengths. Families experience the program-specific positive outcomes that their services and supports are designed to deliver. The second way wraparound creates change is because wraparound is grounded in that theory of change is the participation in wraparound builds family assets. It helps families experience with proactive planning and coping, self-efficacy and empowerment, confirmation of family strengths as a foundation for them moving to where they want to go and achieving their goals, connectedness, increasing social supports and decreasing loneliness, family and team a changed meaning around the situation that they are experiencing and shifts their identity as a family and shifts their worldview. So it's so important. We are doing something different than traditional care has been provided. Another thing that you're going to learn about when you attend your Introduction to Wraparound training is that Wraparound has 10 principles, and we've listed these here for you. The first one is family voice and choice. Families and youth get to choose the relevant people in their lives to be part of their team. They can choose supports and services that are their best fit. They have the biggest say in the identification of their strengths, needs, and choices of strategies to meet their needs and define what crisis is to them. Remember, for families, the saying is nothing about us without us. Individualized, no cookie cutter plans in wraparound. Every care plan is specifically individualized around a family's individual situation. No two plans will ever look the same. Care plans are individualized as each person you'll partner with through this program. So just because you partner with two children who maybe have the same mental health diagnosis, their care plans will look completely different from each other, as they should, because every family has different strengths, different needs, and they've all been through different experiences. And we want to honor and represent that with our care planning process. Strength-based. We look to see how families have coped and managed through the tough times. We know that they've managed because they are still here. We identify and give back those strengths a family has and use those strengths in the planning process. All things in our planning process, from the care plan to the crisis plan, will include the family's strengths as well as team strengths. Natural supports. These are the people who are not paid to care. These are the relatives, the neighbors, the friends, the coworkers of the families and youth that we partner with. Natural supports, the family, the natural supports help the family in holding their paid service providers responsible for what they say they're going to deliver. Natural supports are also there after we transition out of wraparound. So it's important that we have that natural support on our team. All these principles that you see in front of you are equally important, and they all must be represented through the planning process. We don't leave one out, like natural supports, because the family says, I don't want natural supports on my team. Well, that's not family voice and choice. We don't dictate the practice model. You have to have natural supports included, because after that family graduates from wraparound, they're going to need those people who care about them and know them best to help support them. The next one we have here is collaboration. Everyone on the wraparound team must collaborate and allow the family to drive the planning process. The role of the wraparound facilitator here is to bridge that gap so true collaboration between everyone on the team can occur. Unconditional care. This has also been known as persistence. Families don't fail in wraparound. Bottom line, the plan that was developed, if there's failures, it was the plan that was developed that failed. So always remember the phrase, families don't fail, plans do. We don't give up on families and youth in wraparound. We don't close them from programs due to non-compliance. Non-compliance is a dirty word in wraparound. The reason families are non-compliant is because the plan that was developed was not their best fit. So we never give up and we continue to plan for that best fit for families. Community-based. Community-based means that children grow up the happiest when they can be with their families and in their own communities. Our goal is to keep youth in their beds at night. Home and community-based services have been shown to have a larger impact than residential care for youth. We need to assure that families and youth feel connected to their communities. Culturally competent. We leave our stuff and our biases at the door. Cultural competency is more than just race and ethnicity. So really dig into that. It's how we have dinner with our families in the evenings. It's what we do on the weekends. Cultural competency is a very thick and rich concept that we really need to assure that we are digging into that with our families to support them. Team-based. All decisions for care planning are made at that child and family team meeting or that wraparound team meeting. No decisions or planning occurs outside of that space. No one makes plans outside of that meeting. Wraparound works by the team meeting and going through the process of wraparound to have partnerships with families and youth. Many heads are better than one. A team allows for creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. Then outcome-based is our last principle. We must use data to assure that we are making progress. Specifically measuring pieces of the process shows families and youth that their hopes and dreams can be reached. And during your introduction to wraparound training and through engagement and intermediate training, we're going to teach you what you need to use as far as data to show how families have moved and how they're moving closer towards meeting their family vision, meeting their needs, and all of that together and how you document that. It's up to us, remember, it's up to us to be able to show families and youth their progress towards their vision, needs, and outcomes. That's our responsibility. So, how do families and youth even apply for the CMHW program? Here we go. To make a referral, the following link can be used. That is our referral portal, or anyone can call 211 and ask for a wraparound referral. So please know that anyone can make a referral by either using our web address there, or by calling 211. At application for the CMHW program, families use what's called a pick list. So they can choose the wraparound facilitation organization and the WRAP facilitator that they wish to partner with. Families are also provided with their rights and their choices of provider and their choice to actually be in the program through this application process. Families are asked to participate in what we call the Wraparound Fidelity Index Survey, or known as the WIFI-EZ. So this is a survey where families get to voice how their care has been, and it collects data about that care and the support that they've received while in wraparound. So if you receive, as a wraparound facilitator, an email to complete a WIFI-EZ survey, please do that, because we ask facilitators and care coordinators as well as families to provide the input for this. The data collected through the survey supports Indiana in making improvements to this program, as well as provides insight to each WRAP facilitator organization's implementation of the practice model. So who's eligible? Who are the families and youth that you will be forming partnerships with? And notice I say partnerships. We never say caseload. We never say client. We never say patient. We never say consumer. These are families and youth, just like you and I. So something to remember. Language is important. So youth that would qualify, or our eligibility criteria for the CMHW program, would be youth age 6 to 17. If a child applies or a young person applies at 17, they are still eligible for 1 year after they turn 18. They have to live in their home or the community. They have to be eligible for Medicaid and have 2 or more DSM-5 diagnoses. We also have exclusionary criteria, which I will get to on the next slide. The CANS, Child Adolescent Needs and Strengths Survey, is used in our application process, and youth must score a 4, 5, or 6 on that assessment. And there's also another algorithm with that CANS called a DMHA DCS project score, and youth must score a 1 on that item to be eligible for the program. I mentioned exclusionary criteria. So if a young person or a child, their primary diagnosis is a substance use disorder, they will not qualify. Youth who have a pervasive developmental disorder or autism spectrum disorder will not qualify. Youth who have a primary diagnosis of ADHD will not qualify. Youth who have an IDD or an intellectual disability diagnosis will not qualify. And that means even dual diagnosis. So if you have a young person who has an SED diagnosis and an IDD diagnosis, they will not qualify. Youth who are in an institutional setting, Medicaid requires that we prove youth are in the community. So children that are in group homes, things of that nature, are not considered in the community. So youth that are in those types of settings will not qualify for the program. Also, youth that are not safe and feasible in the community. So if you have a young person who their therapist, their doctor, their HSPP is saying, this young person is not safe to receive services right now in the community, if that's the case, then they wouldn't qualify for this program. They would need to then support those families into looking for a higher level of care that would get them ready then to come back to be safe in the community to receive these services. If you have questions about any of the eligibility criteria, I recommend that you, again, look back in that policy module, because it goes into much more detail in there. Or if you have questions, talk to your supervisor. So once a family applies, how do you know as a wraparound facilitator that a family has chosen you? So once the Division of Mental Health and Addiction approves a child for the program, what they do is they create what's called an intervention plan or a budget for the wraparound facilitator to begin meeting with that family. So what happens is we approve you and your organization for 2 full months of wraparound facilitation services to begin and to be billed. We assign that youth to you in our Toby system. And we're going to talk about Toby also later on in this webinar. Toby is the computer system. It doesn't stand for anything. It's just a nice little name where DMHA communicates to you as the wraparound facilitator, the youth that are that have been approved and that you'll partner with. And that's also where you'll be entering, care plans and crisis plans and future budgets to be approved by the state for the families you partner with. Wraparound facilitators receive an email once they've been chosen as well, and that a youth has been assigned to your, I know it's caseload here, we shouldn't have said that, but for the partnerships that you'll have. So that'll be there for you as well. So basically, we give you 2 full months of RAP facilitation services. We assign you to that file in the Toby system so that youth shows up on your dashboard in your computer. And then you get an email that says, hi, you've been assigned a new youth to partner with. So let's dig into what happens next. So in Wraparound, we have 4 phases, 10 principles, 4 phases. So we have phase 1, which is engagement. We have in team prep. Phase 2, which is the initial child and family team meeting or wraparound team meeting, that is can be 1 or 2 meetings as long as they're held within a week of each other. Phase 3, implementation. Phase 4, transition. So during phase 1, that engagement and team prep, you as a facilitator have 48 hours to contact that youth and family to begin your part of wraparound that you're going to be doing with them. You have 30 days from the time that youth is approved to complete phase 1 and get to phase 2, which is the initial child and family team meeting or the initial wraparound team meeting. So Wraparound creates one plan for all team members to follow. Families and youth with multi-system involvement have too many plans and too many requirements for anyone to keep track of and follow. Wraparound brings everyone together with one plan that meets all needs and is the best fit for each individual family. Remember, no decisions are made outside of that Wraparound team meeting. Remember, wraparound is a planning process, and your role as the WRAP facilitator is to facilitate that practice model and develop a plan of care through that wraparound team meeting process with the relevant people in the family and youth life, inclusive of natural supports, formal supports, informal supports, and community supports. We really want to link families back to their communities. After the initial child and family team meeting or wraparound team meeting, the family moves to phase 3 of wraparound, known as implementation. This is the longest phase of wraparound. This is where the team actively works to develop the plan of care and monitor the outcomes for progress. As families and youth begin to see improvements and shift from mostly formal supports to mostly informal supports, that tells us that we're ready to dive into phase 4, which is transition. Transition planning prepares the family and youth for their journey after wraparound has ended. It's a time to celebrate all the progress made and assures that youth and family are feeling empowered and know what to do next after they move out and celebrate. Child and family team meetings must occur between every 30 days. If a family has a crisis and we need to meet, we have to meet after there's a crisis. So if there's a crisis and we need to call the team together to see what didn't work in the crisis plan, that has to happen within 72 hours. So remember, emergency child and family team meetings or crisis child and family team meetings, they need to happen within 72 hours. So that's important. Again, another policy thing that links back to that module that we talked about in the beginning. If you have questions, again, about that, lean into your supervisor because they can definitely provide you some support. So the child and family team meeting or wraparound team meeting, you've heard me use these interchangeably. So to have high fidelity wraparound, it's your responsibility as a wraparound facilitator to build a team. If it's just you and the family, it's not a team. The team must include people that are relevant to the youth and family. It must include the paid people and the unpaid people that supports the family. Remember, again, every 30 days, we're having a child and family team meeting or a wraparound team meeting. This is where progress is monitored, where data is collected around the care plan. We adjust the care plan if it's not working. We change up strategies. It's a living, breathing document and should change as needed to be the best fit for that family and youth. You can have more than one team meeting in a month. It's not, oh, I just have it every 30 days. If you have that needs to occur and the family says, look, we got a lot on our plate, can we meet more often? Absolutely. So remember that. They must happen at least every 30 days. But if a family has an increased need, you can meet more often than that. And reminding you again about that emergency child and family team meeting. If there is a crisis, the team convenes within 72 hours and talks about what didn't work in that crisis plan and then changes it to make sure that we have something that will work the next time. All right, so you have that child and family team meeting. That is where you're developing the plan of care where everyone is there at that table. So let's talk about that. Every family has their own individualized plan of care. No plan, again, should look like another plan. Everything is built on the individualized characteristics of those specific families, youths, and team. Remember, all planning development occurs through that wraparound team meeting or child and family team meeting process. In the CMHW program, you guys need to know that that plan of care has three distinct parts in the TOBI system. So as you are entering plans of care in the computer system to submit to the state, there are three pieces you will attend to. The first is the intervention plan or the budget for the services. So wraparound facilitation is one unit, and so you have one unit every month. A family may pick another CMHW service, and you're going to have to put those units of service for habilitation, respite, or training and support in this budget plan for families. The care plan. That is where the magic of wraparound happens. So in the care plan, that's where you're going to capture what's that family's vision, what's the team mission, so we can assure that we are all working together. What are the functional strengths of the family and team members, the underlying needs of the youth and the caregivers, and the strategies of all team members and who's doing what, when, where, why, and how in partnership with that family. The third piece of the plan of care is the crisis plan, and that details what to do in a crisis, which should have proactive and reactive steps. All right, so let's talk about after all, you have your team meeting, you've got your great care plan, you have to submit that to the state to get it approved. Let's talk about that next. And here's TOBI. TOBI is the electronic health record for the CMHW program. Every wraparound facilitator and supervisor uses this computer system to submit plans of care for this program to the state. TOBI doesn't stand for anything again, it's just a cool name. CMHW services, remember that plan of care is three parts, and so you will be doing those three pieces in this system. You do get training on this system. We offer in-person training about twice a year, and we also have video trainings related to TOBI as well in the system. So once you get your license for TOBI, you will be able to access those videos, and you can watch those at your own convenience and during your own time. Ongoing eligibility. So we know that youth are approved, and once youth are approved, they are eligible for the program for a year. Well, once that year comes close to being up, what we do, you guys as wraparound facilitators are going to do what's called an annual eligibility review. That process it's not hard. What you'll do is you need to make sure that you have a child adolescent needs and strengths or CANS assessment that has been completed in the last 60 days. You will have a form that the family signs called the rights and attestation form, basically saying, family, you have the right to choose to be in this program. You have the right to choose your providers in this program. That's what that's all about. And it also provides them with information if they want to make a complaint or anything of that nature. Pick list for services. I want to make sure that we have those right providers chosen that the family has picked, represented. You're also going to offer that family if they want to participate in the WIFI EZ again. Remember, that's the survey we do to make sure we know we're getting wraparound right. And then we're going to do that annual intervention, care plan, and crisis plan for the family. Remembering that all the pieces of this, as far as the care and crisis plan, and even the intervention plan of knowing how often a service is going to occur, all happens within that child and family team meeting process. All right, let's switch gears here a little bit. One of the things with all home and community-based waiver programs and CMHW as well is incident reports and complaints. So you as wraparound facilitators and supervisors are responsible for reporting any adverse incidents and complaints from families and children. You're responsible to participate in a incident report training, which if you go to our website, you can find that training online. It's part of the things that you have to do to become a facilitator. So some of you may have already completed that. If you haven't, I recommend that you write down that website right there and go and get that training out of the way so you know how to report incidents and complaints for the program. Okay. So wraparound facilitation. This is the service that you service and process. Remember, wraparound is a process. However, we want to make sure providers are paid for that. So I will use that interchangeably here during this webinar. But in your mind, always remember wraparound is a process. So when we look at the service definition of wraparound facilitation, this is what most of that includes and what your job is. So you are a required component of this program. You need to remember that all decisions are made through the team meeting process, and you will be guiding that process as the expert of the practice model. And you are responsible for assuring that the youth and families plan of care, which has the family vision, team mission, strengths, underlying needs, strategies, and a comprehensive crisis plan is entered into the Toby state system and is reflected with the items that are needed to submit to DMHA. And those pieces again here, intervention plans, care plans, and crisis plans. This is a quick reminder that everything you do is documented. Child and family team meeting minutes, sign-in sheets, reflect team composition. Those things need to be updated and uploaded into our Toby system. All components of the annual eligibility review are within that Toby system. Any added CMHW services through the pick list are uploaded into the Toby system. And once you have an approved plan of care, so you've submitted that plan of care to the state has reviewed and approved it, it's your job to then print that plan of care, obtain the family and the caregiver's signature, and then re-upload that into the Toby system. These are all Medicaid requirements that we have to see. Just like if you've ever done any other kinds of care, you know that treatment plans have to be signed and approved. The state here is approving your plan of care and needs to be signed by the family. So remember that. As far as timeframes go, all the timeframes for when these things need to be uploaded in the system are in that policy module. But you need to know, I can tell you now, child and family team meeting minutes or wraparound team meeting minutes, you have 5 business days to get those complete, mailed to the family and the team, and then uploaded in the Toby system. So make sure you remember that there are timeframes behind these things to meet policy standards. Okay, so what are the other CMHW services that families and youth can choose from? So just to let you know that all of our youth and families that are in this program have their Medicaid rehabilitation option services. They are all eligible for psychiatry, nurse, med management, skills, all of that. So if you're building a team of relevant people and the family is partnering with MRO services already, remember, that's a hint. Those are relevant folks to this process. How do families add? So let's talk about how they would add a service. During the wraparound team meeting, we've talked about that's where the planning occurs. We brainstorm around strategy development for the plan of care. So if a family says, gosh, I just really want a break someday, you as a facilitator should be coming prepared to that meeting with pick lists for all the services within that county that the family can access. So during brainstorming, if something like that comes up, you know that there's a service that can help support that family in that strategy. So think about that. As a facilitator, you're going to present that pick list to the family. They're going to choose their provider. Adding the CMHW service strategies and units for that service is going to be in your care plan. So you could say Heidi's going to receive overnight respite 2 times a month, being the first Friday and the last Friday of the month. She's going to be picked up at 3:30 after school by her grandma. Her grandma's going to take her to respite, and then mom's going to pick up. Those kind of things. We need to make sure we're specific. The state's going to review that. And when we review and approve it, you're going to get the approval as well as the provider that was chosen to provide that service, like respite, will get their approval as well. An NOA is a notice of action. It is the document from the state that says, yes, the youth has been approved for their services. Yes, provider, you may bill. So that's what that is. And that comes to you through email through the Toby system. So let's explore the other services families and youth can access through this program. Remembering in Wraparound, we are working ourselves out of a job. So here you see, families want to add services. We're building that team, adding more things, but we have to remember that everything we plan for must be sustainable after Wraparound ends, because these services that are through the CMHW program are going to go away. They're going to be done. So we have to think about, we build up, we sustain, and then we link to what will be sustainable to help support the family after Wraparound ends. All right, habilitation. This is one of the other CMHW services. It is not skill building. It is different. MRO skills is about rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is, oh gosh, I blew a disc in my back and I had trouble walking after that. So I went to rehabilitation to get that skill back to learn how to walk. Habilitation is a skill that has never been built. So it is not the same as MRO skill building. I need you to remember that. That's very important. So habilitation focuses on youth functioning, quality of life, and use of social skills. It builds the youth and family strengths, resilience for positive outcomes. The habilitation provider helps the youth through development of the following skills: identification of feelings, managing anger, giving and receiving feedback, criticism or praise, problem solving, decision making, resisting negative peer pressure, developing pro-social peer interactions, improving communication skills, building and promoting positive coping skills, and learning positive interactions with peers. If you are in a team meeting and your habilitation provider says, yeah, I can go out and play baseball with them, we'll just chill out every Thursday for an hour, that is not habilitation. Your strategies for habilitation must meet this service definition. And it's important that you, as a facilitator, know these service definitions. Okay, habilitation. Things to remember about habilitation. It may not duplicate any other Medicaid service like MRO. Remember, rehabilitation versus habilitation, two different things. Habilitation must be provided one-on-one with the youth, must be face-to-face, no groups, no groups. Habilitation also may not be provided in the school setting. So habilitation providers work in the community and in the family home, never in the school setting. It may not be provided in an office setting. Our habilitation providers, they have offices. They got to have a place to do their notes, but they should never be working with our children in the office setting. It should always be in the community or within the home. Remember that habilitation services cannot be recreational only. They must have that therapeutic component related to meeting a child's need. And there it is again, habilitation is different than rehabilitation, so please don't forget that. Our next service that we have under the CMHW program is training and support for the unpaid caregiver. And some of you have heard of this as FST. That's an old acronym that means family support and training, but unfortunately it still gets tucked in under our program here. So I've I've listed that up here just in case that's how you've heard it. So training and support for the unpaid caregiver. You got to think about first, who is an unpaid caregiver? Is a babysitter an unpaid caregiver? No, they're paid. What about a foster parent? Are they an unpaid caregiver? No, they're paid too. So it's important to remember who is a paid caregiver and who is not. The aunt that lives next door, who hangs out with the child after school till mom gets home from work, that's an unpaid caregiver. So, services provided for a caregiver who is providing unpaid support for the youth. Service provides education and supports to the caregiver that preserves the family unit and increases confidence, stamina, and empowerment. So these are the folks, like I said, the aunt, mom's best friend, anyone who's not getting paid to care for that child when the actual caregivers are not. So this service then provides those folks with practical living and decision-making skills, child development skills and parenting skills, home management skills, linking them to the community resources, informal supports that can maybe come onto the team as an addition. These folks that provide training and support for the unpaid caregiver can provide education and conflict resolution and coping skills for that caregiver, education on the youth's mental health needs, and also crisis de-escalation skills for the youth and family. So if you have a crisis plan written and the family wants to practice that in between crises, training and support for the unpaid caregiver, that's something they could do with the, grandma or mom or anyone of that nature. So this is a one-on-one service. Again, the person provides the training and support service to, again, the unpaid caregiver. There's a second part of this service as well, and that is training and support, that is fees. So again, I mentioned there's the face-to-face. It's an hourly, 50, every 15 minutes, that's how it's billed. But there's also this fees component. So this is actually really cool. FST fees are a non-hourly service. So that means, let's say the mom wanted to go to a class that provided information specifically about the diagnosis her child had, and it cost $50. Well, if you talk about that in your child and family team meeting, that gets put in your plan of care. The state can pay for that for mom to go to that class to learn about her child's diagnoses and receive whatever credit it is for that. Families have up to $500 per year to use towards classes, conferences, trainings, books, or supplies that are associated with the caregiver meeting the youth's needs. Now, please know again, this may not duplicate any other Medicaid service. I've got that throughout here, but that's how Medicaid works. It's just how it is. So, auntie, grandma, mom's best friend that provides care for no payment, they can access this as long as it's a conference or training or something of that nature that is supporting the caregiver in knowing more about how to best support that child. Respite. Respite is a great service that we offer under the CMHW program. It is for the caregivers. It gives them a break. At times, parents need a break, or they may have an emergency and need someone to provide care for their young person in their absence. So respite is short term. It is proactively planned, except for unexpected respite services, which I will address. Respite services basically provide help with day-to-day living skills while the caregiver is away. It's, getting up in the morning, getting ready for school, going to school, coming back from school, making lunch, making sure the child takes their medication, basic supervision, everything a caregiver does on a normal day. It could also be the child goes out with their respite provider for 2 hours while mom says, gosh, I just really want to get the house clean and have the kid out of the house for a couple hours. Great, then go play basketball and just have a good time and have fun. So respite is a great service for youth and families. Kids can have a lot of fun, gives that caregiver the break. So let's talk about respite. It's complex because we have so many different types of respite. So there's hourly. That would be under 7 hours in a day. So that's kind of like where I was saying, Mom needs a break every Tuesday. She wants 2 hours of respite. The child goes out with their respite provider. They go out and they shoot some hoops at the park for 2 hours and come home. Daily respite, that would be where a child is gone from 7 to 24 hours in a day. And again, that's provided in the home, the community, or in a facility. So we'll talk about facility-based respite too. Basically, what that means is we have community-based respite, that provider, child, go out in the community, spend the day together. Then if a child is going to be spending the night somewhere, they have facility-based respite. And so that's different providers that the families choose from on the pick list. And then the child goes and stays at that respite house for a period of time. Unexpected respite, gosh, this is when, let's say, and this happens a lot, we have families who, we have multi-generational families. So you've got grandma, great aunts, maybe living in the home with mom and their children, and maybe even their children's children. So let's say, unfortunately, grandma has to go to the hospital right now, and there is nobody that can watch the child that's in the CMHW program. Families can use what's called unexpected respite, and a respite provider could come and stay with that child while mom takes care of an emergency. So that is what unexpected respite is. I deplore you, please read this part in policy, because there's a lot more information about it, and it has to be an incident that occurs that requires an emergency. It's not like, oh shoot, my best friend called me and she says, I want to go to dinner and I really want to go to dinner with her tonight, so I need an unexpected respite. That's not what it is. It's something has happened, an emergency has happened. So make sure you note that. PRTF respite. PRTF stands for Psychiatric Residential Treatment Facility. Those are our young people who are not in crisis. Let me repeat that. They are not in crisis, but they require that extra set of eyes and care to keep them safe. So those are very high needs youth, but families can access PRTF respite as well. Respite services for daily respite, whether that's unexpected, daily, facility-based, is 40 days per care plan year. And care plan year means if I'm a young person and I'm approved for this program on February 14th, my plan of care year is February 14th through January 31st of 2025. So that's a care plan year. 40 days. Yep, 40 days of respite. Our families, our youth can only stay at a respite facility for 14 consecutive days, and then they must come home. Remember, our goal in Wraparound is to keep kids in the community, not to shove them into a respite facility or constantly receiving respite. We want kids to be in their communities experiencing the things that all kids do. So it's here. It's a great way for families to get a break, especially in case of an emergency. But please know, we shouldn't be using respite in place of higher level of needs like acute placement or anything else like that. So dive into this in the policy module. It's worth your while. Then for our families who want to use facility-based respite and they may not have transportation, we have this service as well. So facility-based transportation services helps families to get to the facility to have that break. So some of our respite providers have vehicles and they can help support transporting a youth from home to the facility-based respite and then back home if needed. Now, again, remember, Medicaid wants to be the payer of last resort. So whenever possible, we need to look at family, neighbors, friends, community agencies that can provide this transportation first without a charge. And then if there's nobody to be found, then we can use this facility-based respite transportation to get children from their home to respite and back. All right, this is a lot. So remember, you need to know all CMHW providers are responsible for knowing policy. This includes you as a facilitator. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn the practice model part of Wraparound, the fidelity pieces of Wraparound, but you also need to know the policy pieces of this program as well, because they intertwine. So please, I beg you, take time to read our policy module and make notes in it. If you find places you have questions, please reach out to your assigned Quality Improvement Wraparound Site Coach. They can help answer any questions that you might have. The module that you have here is going to have everything related to your role, what you need to do, when things are due, as well as what other CMHW providers have to do as well. Speaking of that, if you're a RAP facilitator and you are partnering with a family and they have one of these 3 other services from our CMHW program, those providers are responsible to get you, the RAP facilitator, their monthly report of how things have been going with that family and youth by the 5th business day of the following month. So February's information be due the 5th business day of March. Dates of service need to be included in that monthly report. How many hours were provided that month by that provider? What strategies did they do from the plan of care? And what's going on? What are the new updates? What are the new strengths? Are there any new needs that have been seen? It should be, overall synopsis of how the month went. They should not be providing you with every service note they write, but they should be writing a note that is comprehensive of all the things that occurred over that month. If you're not getting these from your provider, please let your wraparound site coach know, and we will follow up with either the HAB, FST, or respite provider to inquire where those reports are if you are not receiving them. Okay, here we go. We are almost done with this, everyone. These are the resources and links that are so important. So again, the DMHA CMHW website is there for you. The National Wraparound Implementation Center, or NWIC, their website is there for you. They are the folks who hold the practice model of high fidelity wraparound in partnership with the National Wraparound Initiative. And there is their web address as well. Lots of good stuff there. If you are a new supervisor, new wraparound facilitator, please take some time to explore all 3 websites because there's a lot of information that's very valuable there. And lastly, what I'd like to do is thank you. Thank you for sitting through this. Thank you for becoming a wraparound supervisor. We're really glad to have you as part of our family, as our wraparound family. One of the things you'll have to do now that this webinar is over is I'm going to direct you back to the website where you clicked to watch this webinar, and you will see underneath that it'll be uploaded a PDF copy of this PowerPoint. And if you go there, you're going to go to the last page on that PowerPoint, and you will find a certificate where you can fill in your information. So you can basically just print this one slide off, write your name, write the date. There are no contact hours there. This is just a base requirement that all RAP facilitators and their supervisors need to do. So that is there for you to print, complete, and then provide back to DMHA as part of your enrollment paperwork. That's it. We're glad to have you, and we hope you have a great day, and welcome to Wraparound.